some hempcrete walls. You'll see this contraption here is it's a sieve to pull out a lot of the bass fiber that came with the hemp that we had, and we've been having a lot of issues with there being too much of it, and as such, we've been creating a lot of balls in the mixture that we have to kind of break down by hand. So we're just trying to make things a little bit easier for ourselves. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with hempcrete, but it's basically a mixture of hemp herds that are just like a chopped up stalk of the hemp plant to keep everything together. And yeah, so right now we're working with different proportions of hydrated lime, Portland cement, and fly ash. So yeah, so we're using just a typical mortar mixer to mix all the concrete for the hempcrete router. And the final product requires about a month to cure. And when we started building these, it was pretty much the start of the winter season, so we had to find a heated area to build it. And yeah, so it should make it a fairly easy process to move these walls over and just kind of construct the building fairly quickly that way. And yeah, so these first 6 panels here are one mix using a different mix. What is that? And so yeah, so once you get all those ready, we'll let them sit in the wall system. And yeah.
There any shrinkage, drinkering?
Actually, there's very little so far. Like these 2 walls here, there's maybe been millimeter, 2 millimeters tops. So it's actually been quite good in terms of shrinkage. And I'm sure there.
Well, I guess this will go up on one of the pads over there and get monitored the same way as all the rest. So we've got relative humidity sensors that are inside that have been calibrated based on the absorption isotherm for the hemp. So we get a relationship between the RH and the moisture content. One of the interesting things that we found was that even at close to about 98% relative humidity, the moisture content in here was only around 12%. So that was interesting. But what we also want to see, we were involved in another study where, given our climate here, where it's going from, well, this weekend plus 35, and then it goes down to minus 40 and everything else. So we want to see what happens to moisture moving through that. If there's a moisture front, do we get freeze-thaw issues? Do we get any of that? So we'll be able to look at that. It's certainly not a new technique. I mean, it's been used in France and whatnot for quite a long time. There is product available that's commercially available, but they, as Jeremy mentions, they typically use a hydraulic line, which we actually don't produce in North America anymore. We used to, not far from here, about a 45-minute drive, you used to be able to get hydraulic line no problem, but not anymore. So that's being able to find other alternatives and whatnot. So the reason for the panelized construction is, well, as Jeremy mentioned, one, we ran into weather issues, so you could do this in situ and build it on site. But the other is really, that's where, in our opinion, the industry is gradually moving, because you'll never be able to get a CCMC number for a straw bale, right? Because they're all going to be different. There's no consistency. But if you do it under a certain level of control conditions and manufacturing conditions, and you can replicate that and you can document that you've done it and all the rest of it, then potentially from a business perspective, then there might be an opportunity for business. As it is right now, it's each home basically, each building is a custom building. So from the engineering point, from the code point of view, from all these things, it ships into a Part 4 building, which requires much more level of detail and information, which it should at this stage. But I mean, if you ever want to move it to more of a, to make it more value added for the product that you've got, then it's got to move, in our opinion, to something where you can do it a little bit more controlled and more predictable. That's really that's part of it.
And that material.
For example, up at the front. In fact, it's right where you're getting on the bus, so we can give you a quick overview of that if you'd like. Just before you hop back on the bus, we were doing this project about 3 weeks ago for a workshop. But I don't want you to think that you have to build it with these big posts. It's just that we were doing a bunch of testing on these laminated timbers, so we had them left over, so we figured we'd use them, right? And then I wanted a little bit more of a funky roof style on this building, so all the rest of them all kind of look the same, so this one's a little bit different. So this is cordwood or stack wall masonry, and this is a double wall technique on this side. So you've got cordwood on the outside, then you've got insulation, and then you've got cordwood in here. But there's about 4 different techniques. So there's the stack wall with cellulose in the mortar, and then cellulose insulation in between. So when you do the cordwood or the stack wall, you only put about a 3-inch mortar bed on either end, and then the inside is all filled with insulation. So we've got the cellulose in the mortar, cellulose insulation. We have hemp hurd in the mortar and hurd as the insulation in between, and then the more conventional, traditional way, if you will, of doing it with sawdust in the mortar and sawdust as the insulation in between. The last wall on the end here then will be earth, so it'll be a cob mix, which is earth with a bit of straw or some hemp, and then that's what's used as the mortar. So now you're looking at something that's really, well, it's not alternative, but it's really affordable. So, and you can build that pretty efficiently and pretty cost effective, right? So, I mean, there's lots of you in the audience who come from parts of the world where earth buildings and all that is the norm. But it's funny how we get to North America and we discover earth buildings and they're all new somehow, you know. But nevertheless, we're looking at the application here in this kind of climate. So I guess you need to get back on the bus. But I just want to thank you very much for selecting our tour, and it's been great to see you. If you want to know any more about what we're doing, want any more information, want to make some connections, just get a hold of us, and that'd be great.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
All right, we might as well board.